Hello and welcome to the Hampden Roar Podcast. It is the Nations League draw preview today. It kind of snuck up on us, to be honest. It has been lost in all the World Cup preparation noise, I think. So this is the Nations League that will take place this autumn. Scotland relegated to League B after that defeat to Greece in the playoffs almost a year ago now. Wow. So what we'll do is we'll run through the potential opponents. We are seeded first in League B. We'll run through who we can draw, the ideal draw or the preferable one, the poorer scenarios for us, and the nation's key players, how they've done recently, and when the last time was that we played them, our sort of brief history with these nations. I am joined by Calum Brown, a British football commentator. Hello, mate, a familiar voice.
Hello, Andy.
I am your creator and host, as Calum says, Andy Bargh, and we're going to be joined soon as well by Gavin Noon from the Scotland's Coefficient Twitter page, which is an excellent resource. A lot of work, hard work gets put into that by Gav, and he's been on hand to explain a lot of things to us over the years that initially seem quite difficult, and he makes it seem very easy. So Gav should be with us in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and he'll run through the permutations of what finishing first or second would mean for Scotland and how it can affect subsequent qualifying campaigns like the World Cup in 2030, for example. It's you know what it's like these days. Everything has a consequence at international football. So Gav will come on and steer us in the right direction with that as well. We've had a lot on the Hampden Roar lately. It's been great fun having Callum and Alan Thomas Lewis and everybody coming on. We've started or restarted our domestic catch-ups, talking about how the boys are doing for their clubs. And with that comes On the Plane. The next episode of On the Plane will be next week. So we're going to try and keep it to the middle of each month at the start of each week. And we will split the players up into lads that, well, we think are certainties to go if they're fit. And then the ones that are queuing at security at the airport, the ones that are waiting by the phone for an injury to another player, and then those that we think are out of contention and booking a holiday. We've also got plenty more to come up on the Hampden Roar. We've been having our thinking caps on, Callum, me and you having a few discussions about what we can do for filler episodes and sort of the ranking episodes and talking about our best memories with the national team. We had a retrospective lately when we drew 2-2 with Poland in 2015. That would have been, that went down quite well. So we'll do another retrospective as well. But today is about the Nations League. If you want to remember our first foray in the Nations League, that was what started our journey to Euro 2020 when we had Albania and Israel. If you'd like to reminisce about what was a successful time there, you can read my book, A Nation Again. That's with Waterstones and Amazon, etc. Or you can download the audiobook on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, and you can listen to the players retell the story in their own words from the Nations League, from McLeish coming in and then going and Clark coming in and eventually getting over the line in the playoffs. It starts with Strachan's last game against Slovenia and finishes with the shootout in Belgrade. So it covers that sort of 2 year span. And it's got all the original audio, the audio book anyway, from my interviews with guys like David Marshall, Lyndon Dykes, John McGinn, Ryan Christie, and there's about a dozen of the boys. And obviously all their quotes are part of the story in the book, which has had some lovely feedback. And if you decide to give it a chance, then thank you very much. Callum, the Nations League this year is taking quite an interesting format. I had completely forgotten that the international window is changing now. So when we start our Nations League campaign, which is going to be either on the 24th, 25th, or 26th of September this year, the international window will be 4 games long. It's no longer just the double header. That international window will end on the 6th of October. So there's 4 games that are going to be played over just under 2 weeks. I make that that seems like quite a lot to me. I don't think that preserves the the quality and the what's the word I'm looking for? The rarity of international football enough. I prefer it when it doesn't happen all at once.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's probably going to be a bit more costly for the fan as well. People like myself who go to away games, that'll be assuming it works out like that, two homes, two aways. So if you're looking at, unfortunately, I'm lucky enough to work in football, so holidays will maybe be okay for that. But the likes of mates and people that have your day-to-day jobs, it's going to be really difficult for people to get to away games potentially if it's a double header. So yeah, it's odd, but I don't know. Maybe you could look at it as a good thing for momentum. I know we had that three-game group, sorry, six game group there in the World Cup, and it's a lot less room for error. But we saw we were able to get a decent run together. So maybe there'll be pros and cons.
Here's Gavin Noon has been able to join us. Welcome along, Gav, who was just singing your praises with the Scotland's coefficient. It feels like you're the perfect man to have on for this podcast.
Morning, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry I was late. I was just having a call with someone about building a coefficient website, actually. So
Ah,
very relevant to the point you've made.
excellent, great stuff. Well, you can obviously you're more than welcome to plug on here. I was saying everybody is very thankful for the work you do, making it sound a lot more simple than I think it is. With all these things, the first thing that I'm going to ask you, I was just putting it to Callum there, is four games in the one international break. That seems awful end of seasony to me, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I think on the face of it, it will feel like the the national team is away for a longer period because they are for those international breaks. But compared to the start of this season, where it felt like the league campaign for the clubs was constantly getting broken up, there was an international break pretty much every month. Um, the net gain of this is that the players will be away for less time in the autumn. So from a club point of view, I think it's actually a good change. So the fans in Scotland that don't care about the national team will probably bemoan or moan about the longer international breaks, but overall they should have less number of breaks in their season. So from a club point of view, I think it's probably for a good thing. And then from a national point of view, I think one of the things you hear quite regularly is that the national managers don't get that much time on the training field. If they want to change the system and go from two centre backs to three centre backs or whatever it is, that takes loads of sessions on the training pitch. And you hear it all the time that, well, we don't get enough time to train. So if they're together for a longer period, the games are coming more closer together. There should, in theory, be more time in the one window for them to improve tactically as well. So as with everything, I'm looking on the positive side, and hopefully it is a good change. But we'll see how we feel come autumn.
I think I say it feels quite end of seasony because in summer 22, am I right? Yeah, it was the playoff, World Cup playoff. We had four games against Ukraine, Armenia, Republic of Ireland, and then Armenia again. Is that right? In June because our playoff was delayed, and it all just it felt very squished together at that point,
Yeah.
and good competitive football, I don't think is conducive to that. I mean, if we were to play on the first date of each match day in this league phase, we would play on Thursday the 24th of September, Sunday the 27th of September, Wednesday the 30th of September, and Sunday the 4th of October. It's a lot. So that'd be four games in, what's that, 10 or 11 days for Scotland. I mean, we would, I'm sure, see a lot of rotation and conservatism, I think, in that window if that's the case, because four games in 11 days, God, that's the sort of thing that managers tear their hair out at these days. Not that Steve Clark can, but anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll come to discuss the Nations League options then, boys. So our defeat to Greece in the playoff last year means that we are in League B and we're in Pot 1 along with Hungary, Poland and Israel. Thank God Israel are in Pot 1, so we can't draw them. Pot 2, Switzerland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Austria and Ukraine. Pot 3, Slovenia, Georgia, Republic of Ireland and Romania. Pot 4, Sweden, North Macedonia, Northern Ireland, and Kosovo. So there's stuff to be wary of everywhere we look in this Nations League B. I have to say, Callum, although it was exciting being in League A for a stage and we competed well and got a couple of good wins, I feel this is where we belong right now, looking at the opponents that we're probably going to be drawing along with.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. obviously it was a good experience. Kind of I remember having a chat about it the other day with a mate. We competed pretty well in the previous one, but I would say these are, especially with Poland being relegated as well, probably I think we're that kind of level. Lost to them at home, one away. We're probably that kind of level. Whereas you don't want to risk being drawn against your Frances, Germanys, etc. So it's good that there's definitely some winnable games, definitely some good teams, and I'm looking at pot two, Sweden in pot four. Obviously they didn't have a great campaign, but it's it's good. Like it should be something that we are aiming to win, group wise. So yeah, as much as it was a good experience, I think as well as good. You mentioned the four games in 11, 12 days, maybe across 2 weeks or whatever it would be. I think the teams at this level now will have less strength and depth, similar to ourselves, whereas France could probably field two 11s that could hammer us. So you're avoiding that as well, Spain as well.
Okay, Gav, the promotion. I was going to say race, but this is not really a race. I suppose it's more of a sprint. But the opportunity for promotion to take us back to League A sounds like it would be good in isolation. Also, win the league, success. It means we've won our games. I'm interested in the wider ramifications of how this would affect our attempts to qualify for Euro 2028 and maybe even beyond, which we probably don't need to look at today. You can touch on it if you like for World Cup 2030, but if we finish first or second or third or whatever in this group, how does it lead us into our attempts to qualify for Euro 2028?
Well, Euro 2028 should be the easiest tournament we've ever qualified for because there's so many routes in. So if we win our our Euro qualifying group, we qualify. If we finish second, we might still qualify because 8 of the 12 runners up go through as well. So finishing in the top two gives a fairly high chance of qualifying. But because we're the hosts, UEFA are holding two spaces in reserve for the four hosts. So if only England qualify, let's say, then we just need to rank higher than one of either Wales or Republic of Ireland, and we would then get this space held in reserve, even if we didn't finish in the top two. So and beyond that, there's still more ways of getting in. So one of them would be we win this League B group, whoever we're against, that guarantees a playoff for Euro 2028 should we need it. Now, I've just explained that I don't think we will need it because it would be a massive failure to not get in through any of the other ways. And with that, you get promoted to League A. So because the playoff spots are held for the group winners in the Nation League, being in Group A is actually to our detriment. So you saw that for the World Cup, although of course we didn't need it, we've qualified outright. But the winners in League C and League D, so like San Marino and stuff, they were ahead of us in the pecking order for the playoffs if we weren't going to qualify, even though we were a League A side. But because we didn't win our group, you're not in the race for the playoffs. So that's where, as you say, in isolation, yeah, get promoted. You're in League A, you're at the top table. There's more money up there as well, so it's all good. You're guaranteed a playoff spot for Euro 2028. But thinking further ahead, I don't think we need this Nations League playoff spot for 2028, but I think we will need it for the World Cup in 2030. So there's only 16 UEFA nations go to a World Cup compared to 24 qualify for the Euros. So it's much harder to qualify for the World Cup. So I would much rather stay in League B now, qualify for Euro 2028 through all the other options that are available to us, and then have a better chance, theoretically, of winning our League B group in the Nations League just before the next World Cup to then bank a playoff spot. So that's how it looks right now. But of course, the regulations aren't written for the World Cup in 2030. So, like, obviously, Steve Clarke and the SFA are not going to plan this. I'm just thinking, as a nerdy fan point of view, that's what I'd like to see. But they could then change the regulations and for the 2030 World Cup say, actually, everyone in League A is guaranteed a playoff spot first, and then it drops down. At which point, I would have been like, fuck, why did we listen to that coefficient idiot? Because now we actually want to be in League A. But as it is right now, so as it's been for the last tournament, I don't want to get promoted from this Nations League.
But what about the pots, Gav? Does getting promoted to League A not improve our standing for actual
Yeah,
qualifying draws?
yeah. So that would be, I think, the biggest benefit of winning all these matches and getting promoted to League A, because the more matches we win between now, and it's not that far away, December 2027, so the end of next year, when they make the draw for Euro 2028. If we've won loads of matches, we've qualified from the Nations League, we've done well at the World Cup, all of this, and our ranking rises, then we've a better chance of being in a higher pot for Euro 2028. And again, in theory, an easier draw at the main tournament. I think that's maybe lower down the list of priorities though, because you see at all the major tournaments, I don't think the pots are as important for the tournaments as they are for qualifiers. So look, is it Italy or whoever are going to be pot four sides in the World Cup if they come through the playoffs? So yeah, it would be good and it would raise our ranking and we would have better seasons in future. But I think getting to the next World Cup 4 years' time is top of my list of priorities. And I think not getting promoted from this Nations League would potentially be the best bet for that.
I can't see when the draw for Euro 2028 qualifying is, but the first match day is the end of March 2027. So
So
I would
the
assume it's
draw
probably
for the yeah,
December this year, maybe.
it'll be at the end of this year. So
Mm.
I'm thinking more longer term for the actual tournament because I'm just taking it as a given. This team is reaching Euro 2028 because it would just be the biggest disaster if we didn't. I'm thinking more about, well, what about once we get to the tournament? How's our seeding going to look at the end of next year? But yeah, for the qualifiers themselves for Euro 2028, it will be our ranking at the end of this year, which is taken from the Nations League as well. So again, there is positives to doing well in it.
Okay, so to summarise, Callum, how do you feel about finishing second or third? If actually, no, because third would lead to a relegation playoff, and let's
Yeah,
avoid that. So let's finish second and lose the playoff, is what Gav is essentially telling us.
ideal.
So so that we so that we aren't so that we are then more are still in a position to win League B when it comes round to the World Cup ahead of the World Cup qualifiers, because if we win our Nations League B before that, it would guarantee us a playoff for the tournament that's harder to qualify for. Whereas we should back ourselves to qualify for the Euros automatically this time, and therefore not put ourselves in a position where a playoff for the World Cup is harder to achieve ahead of 2030. I think I've ticked the boxes you're saying there, Gav. I nodded the head would be welcome if
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, got it.
well,
Okay.
I'm getting confused listening to you, and it's me that's brought this to the table. So I don't know how your listeners are going to try and get their heads around what I've just spouted there. But you've done a great job of summarizing it, but it is really complicated, and you would need to have that written in front of you, I think.
Okay, Callum, have you managed to get your head around that reading of the future?
I get the gist of it. I do remember when we were in the last Nations League in League A and kind of looking at all the teams getting the World Cup playoffs. Obviously, we thankfully qualified automatically, but if we hadn't have done, you'd have been like, well, what was the point of being in League A? So I do get Gav's point. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult. Like ideally, you just want to win. Obviously, there's the fallback. If we don't win, then it's arguably a positive as well as Gav mentions, being in League B for the World Cup. So yeah, I reckon just I mean I'm obviously going to say go for it and try and win your group or whatever. But if you fall back, then it's obviously a positive as well. So I think it's kind of a risk free campaign. Arguably, I think people as well had put a lot of pressure on the last Nations League for me. Even though you could argue it's maybe a benefit now to be in League B, but I do remember because it was fresh off the back of the Euros, everyone was like, "Oh, we need to do well here," and Clark's still under pressure as well. So, yeah, should be three winnable games and good to compete against nations who we probably be favourites for, at least certainly in the home games.
Yeah. Well, the nations from pot two that we can draw for the draw, I haven't even said when it is. It's on Thursday, isn't it? 12th of February. So this will come out probably, we're recording this around lunchtime on the 10th. So I'll get this out today. So that should give almost 2 days for people to kind of have their scene set for the draw. The pot two sides that we can be paired with are Switzerland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Austria, or Ukraine. A quick look at how each of them did in their attempts to qualify for the World Cup there. Switzerland finished first in their group. They topped one with Kosovo, who we'll come to later, Slovenia, and Sweden as well. Ukraine finished second in a group with France, who won it. They were ahead of Iceland and Azerbaijan. Bosnia and Herzegovina were in a five-team group. They were beaten to first place by Austria, who are the other team that we can draw from this group. So the hardest draw, my instinct says Switzerland or Austria, and I think I'd probably prefer Bosnia and Herzegovina for this one, guys, purely because it's rarer. We've played the other three in our recent history, and I always like to play teams, Gav, that we haven't played maybe in a decade or two. And I think we're going back to the start of the millennium for Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Yeah, we've only ever played them twice, and it was in Euro 2000's qualifying. So we won both matches by a single goal. So we won 2-1 away. Don Hutchison and Billy Dodds scored, and then 1-0 at Ibrox because Hampden was obviously getting redeveloped at that time, and that was a John Collins penalty. So I'm pretty much the same as you. I think it's like not boring, but you don't want to play the same teams all the time. I feel like we always play Austria, Ukraine. I was at the Switzerland game in Germany last year. I don't want to see Switzerland anytime soon. So, yeah, Bosnia and Herzegovina would be good for me.
Callum, well, you're both lads that go on away days as well. So I suppose Bosnia. And do you know what? I normally pride myself on knowledge of European capital cities, and I can't tell you what the Bosnian capital is right now. Is someone going to save me?
Sarajevo, was it?
Sarajevo. Well, I suppose neither of you will have been there for a football game, like
No.
me. So, is that something that you'd be more interested in because it's unusual compared to Switzerland, Austria, and Ukraine?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was saying the same to mates a couple of days ago. I mean, Gav summarised it pretty perfectly, and it's the same in my head as well. Switzerland, we just played at the Euros, and just won their group as well, as you mentioned. So that would be difficult. I would rather avoid them. I wouldn't be devastated with an Austria Ukraine as long as we avoid Switzerland. But yeah, for me, if I was to be able to select a draw right now, it would be Bosnia, purely for an away day as well. I think that would be good. And yeah, lack of familiarity, which is not easy for me to say.
Their main man is Edin Dzeko, still going. He will be 40 in a month. Wow, he's playing with Schalke these days. He's got 146 caps, 72 goals, so some record there. There aren't really many names that jump out of the Bosnian squad for me. There's a guy that I recognise, Tabakovic. He plays for Mönchengladbach in Germany. I'm sure Hoffenheim signed him for a lot of money, like, well, relatively, like 20 odd million, maybe a year or two ago. Otherwise, there are no names that I recognise apart from Sead Kolasinac, who plays for Atlanta now, or Atalanta, sorry, the former Arsenal fullback. No other names.
There's the Benfica right back, Amer Dedic. They signed
Yeah.
him from, I think, Salzburg. He's, according to Transfer Market, their most valuable player. And then I'm not going to even bother trying to butcher these guys' names, but the guy at Sassuolo Moharamovic, they've got a left winger at Salzburg. So they do seem to have maybe four or five players that would command transfer fees over sort of £10 million. So again, from a Scottish perspective that doesn't know anything about these teams, I would be wary of saying, "Oh, it's Bosnia Zeko's 40." That
Yeah.
we should beat them home and away. When actually we might be in a really competitive game
Oh,
against players of a decent standard.
listen, some teams that are represented by Bosnian players, Benfica, as you've just said, Sturm Graz, Atalanta, Sassuolo, Brøndby, Paphos, who are Champions League this year, Victoria Pilsen, PSV, Red Bull Salzburg, Mönchengladbach. Yeah, they're an absolutely solid outfit, clearly. The guy I think you've just referenced, the Red Bull Salzburg lad, Kerim Alazbegovic, a winger, only 18. Uh-oh. That just screams danger to me if we get drawn
It's
against
like
Bosnia.
when I used to play five-a-sides, I used to hate as a 30, mid 30-year-old man, seeing these like 17 and 18-year-old boys coming on with like nice hair and shiny boots, and they would just tear us to pieces. So when I project that onto the national team, and I remember the Greek young boys and stuff like that, I'm always fearful of an 18-year-old left winger that plays for a top European club. So yeah,
Karetsas is he's left a
yeah,
lasting impression in that regard. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
There's a
the
Scottish link as well, just quickly on Bosnia with Nikola Katic, I think.
All right,
Um,
oh
yeah.
Used to obviously former Rangers centre half, so it's an interesting one, maybe.
Nikola Katic. Let me see if he's yeah. So he's at Schalke now. Yeah, okay. Forgot about him. Well remembered, Callum. Um, so Dzeko's teammate at Schalke. The other guys in pot two. I'm just pulling up. I've got so many tabs open here. Yeah. So World Cup. Ukraine have a playoff against Sweden. Playoff semi-final for the World Cup. And Bosnia have a World Cup semi-final away to Wales. That'll be interesting. So that's at the end of March. Austria qualified automatically, and Switzerland qualified automatically. Are Switzerland the ones that you would like the least, lads?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Ukraine, I think just because we had Ukraine in a Nation League recently, I would prefer to avoid them. I think similarly to you, the rarer the better. Austria would be a hard team. Is Ralph Rangnick still there? Yeah, he is still their manager. They've become really good in the last couple of years. So that'd be a tough. The vast majority of their squad plays in the Bundesliga and the top flight in Germany. So yeah, that'd be a really tough draw. But we think Bosnia would be preferable, and Switzerland the least preferable one from pot two. Okay, on to pot three. The options for us to draw here are Slovenia, Georgia, Republic of Ireland, and Romania. I will never say no to a clash with Republic of Ireland, lads. I really look forward to those games. But again, we played them quite recently. Slovenia, we haven't played since the end of the campaign when Strachan left. We beat them 1-0 thanks to Chris Martin coming off the bench and scoring, and then drew 2-2 in Ljubljana, which ended our playoff hopes. We needed to win that game. Georgia, plenty of recent history with them, just going back to the last Euros campaign. Romania, mid noughties, Gav, I think. That was the game where John Kennedy got his terrible knee injury.
Yeah. That was a friendly about 20 odd years ago, and that was the only time we've ever played them.
That's it. Wow. Jeez, oh, that's unusual. Okay.
Oh no,
So,
maybe that's the only time we've played them this century. Sorry, yeah,
yeah.
we played them six times in total, winning two and losing two.
Okay. So Romania would at least bring something different. I think enough time has passed for us to be drawing Slovenia again without it feeling too repetitive. Georgia are hands down the one that I would like to stay away from us. And Republic of Ireland, although we played them, what would that be? It'll be 4 years ago by the time it comes along. I do relish those clashes, so I'm up for it. So, Republic of Ireland or Slovenia for me, just to contradict what I'm saying about teams we haven't played in a while. Romania, I don't really know too much about them, but Georgia, I'm not interested. How do you feel about it, Gav?
Well, I don't know if I've ever told you, Andy, but my fiance is Irish. She's from the Republic of Ireland. So for me, from a personal point of view, I would like Republic of Ireland. I was at her uncle's house in London 4 years ago, June 2022, and the room was full of Irish folk. Scotland were playing them in Dublin, and I was like, "Oh, this is a good Scotland team. Clark Scott is playing well now. Yeah, we're one to be feared." And we were 3-0 down in what feels like about 4 minutes, and it was just a room full of Irish folk. You boys are absolutely murder. What were you on about? So I would quite like to get my own back on that side of the family. And yeah, like you said, we've not played Romania in a while. Probably a nice enough flight over there. But Georgia, I'd absolutely not want to play. Just such bad memories of losing to them. Obviously, the most recent one was the rain-soaked night in Hampden a couple of years ago, where I stayed in that stadium for 2 hours and saw 10 minutes of play because I ended up leaving before the match restarted. So yeah, I think I'd rather avoid them as well.
This you saw Callum McGregor's goal.
Exactly,
Callum,
yeah. So
yeah, Callum, what about you? The options for pot three.
Yeah, I'm not against Ireland at all. I think that would be a bit of a different game though. I think it's probably one that almost like a derby where a form kind of goes out the window. Although if you'd asked me, I don't know, 3, 4 months ago, if I'd have wanted Ireland, I'd have said 100% because they looked mince and then didn't produce those two results. So, um, yeah, that would be good. And obviously, I didn't go to the Ireland games in the past, so the away ones, sorry. So, from a personal point of view, wouldn't mind going to Dublin for a couple of days. Similarly in pot four, which I'm sure we'll get on to. But yeah, avoid Georgia for me. Not against Slovenia or Romania at all. Again, just probably for a rarity, Romania and Slovenia. I remember I think that was the was that the Strachan campaign?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Beat them at home. Chris Martin at home, I think it was
yeah.
or the own goal. It might that might be in Slovakia.
yeah, that
Um,
was Slovakia.
but yeah, I mean, again, didn't go. Was probably too young to go. So wouldn't mind Slovenia or Romania if I'm looking at away days as well, and two countries I've never been to. So
Don't know much about Slovenia. Let me just have a look at how they did in their qualification there. So they finished third in Switzerland's group on 4 points from 6 games. We'll come to Sweden in a second, but God, they must have been rotten. They finished on 2 points from 6 games. But Slovenia had a good Euros, I remember. They drew their 3 games against Denmark, Serbia, and England in the group stage. So that's pretty good going for what would have been fourth seeds. And then they drew 0-0 against Portugal in the last 16 and went out on pens. They absolutely bottled it, got beat 3-0 in the penalty shootout. So Slovenia must have a bit about them. Let me see here
All
who they
Black.
might
So they've
have.
got the meant to be the next big thing at Man United, but hasn't quite materialized. Benjamin Sesko up
Ah,
front, and obviously the keeper Jan Oblak has been, I don't know, the best keeper in the world for 10 years or something like that. So there must be some few good players in there supplementing that. Given, like you said, they had a Euros campaign that we would have loved.
look, they look like they've got a squad consisting of players that are playing at a level beneath ours if you were to look at it as a collective. Their strikers play for Slovan Bratislava, Amiens in France, Swansea, and Ujpest. That will that was their last bunch of call-ups from up front anyway. The midfield play for teams like Rijeka in Croatia, Sturm Graz, Verona. So that's Sandy Lovric, who is now Kieran Bowie's teammate. Red Star Belgrade, Sigma Olomouc, Bristol City, Panathinaikos. Then defenders at Legia Warsaw, Zenit, Orlando City, Holstein Kiel, who are maybe even second Bundesliga now. Leeds United, Jaka Bijol. I don't know much about him. Um, so I mean, they must be like a pretty organised and well-drilled unit because it doesn't seem like they have. And this is me completely jumping to a conclusion. It doesn't seem like they have many players that would operate at a much higher level. That can produce moments of individual magic. I'm sure they might have a couple the way that we've got McTominay, but yeah, there's no reason to look at that squad of Slovenia and think, oh, we should be running scared of them. The way that we've got trauma from Georgia, for example.
Yeah, I'm having a look as well, just at the six game group they had as well, and they only scored against Sweden, a 1-1 draw and a 2-2 draw. The three goals scored across the 6 games and failed to score in four of them. So although they did only concede 8 goals, so as that kind of fits the narrative you've said there about being relatively solid. That gives me the fear now at home trying to break them down. But yeah,
So the most preferable one for me, I can't. It's a toss up for me between Slovenia and Republic of Ireland. I look forward to Republic of Ireland clashes to the extent that the recency almost goes out the window. I think 4 years is enough. If it had been last season, I'd maybe think differently. But I would like to play Republic of Ireland again. Slovenia, probably level with them or second choice. Georgia, definitely my last choice. And Romania, I would sort of shrug my shoulders and say, okay, it's a bit new, Gav. They're they're a decent team, but we've not played them in long enough for it to be a bit fresh.
Yeah, that seems fair. Ireland number one for me, and then not too bothered about the rest.
Yeah, so moving to pot four, it's filled with trepidation, I think, boys. Sweden, really curious about them. North Macedonia, who have been rising in the international scene, and I think would cause us trouble again. I don't know if this is just PTSD from the George Burley days when we went over there and got beat 1-0 in the opener for the qualifier. I think that must have been 2010 World Cup, I think. Northern Ireland, well, you just have to look back to the previous spring when they asked us to try and break them down and struggled. And Kosovo, who we've never played, but they're from that corner of Europe that I'm not really too interested in trying to take on. To be honest, I just have an instant fear about playing teams from the Balkans most of the time. So I think that I would back us to get the better of Northern Ireland, despite what happened last spring. I think they would probably be my top choice, followed by Kosovo. I'm not too sure how bad Sweden actually must be. I know they had a terrible campaign. They were finished with 2 points from 6 games and didn't qualify for the World Cup or the playoffs. But they still seem like they'd be good. Too much, not too much of a challenge, sorry, but more of a challenge than Northern Ireland, Gav.
Yeah, I think avoid Sweden at all costs. I know they got rid of the manager during that campaign and they brought Graham Potter in. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if he's signed a contract to continue on or if someone else is there, but their squad is packed with players that would get into our starting lineup. So it's a bit of a mystery how bad they've done. So a team with that amount of good players and good strikers aren't going to be losing matches for long. So I think they'll get promoted this time. So I would want to avoid them. From the others, yeah, we should be able to beat the other three in that pot. Obviously, North Macedonia seems to be a problem for us going across there and the heat and all of that. And then Kosovo, we've never played, but that's primarily because they were only founded, I suppose, as a country. They've only had their independence for a couple of decades. So yeah, from that, I think just avoid Sweden, and then the rest is good. If we're thinking, Callum was saying about him going abroad and stuff, we're thinking from a fan point of view, then Northern Ireland's pretty easy to get to. Like you can get the ferry over from Stranraer. There's loads of flights into Belfast, so that would be a pretty good away day for the fans. So yeah,
Aye.
avoid Sweden. I would like Northern Ireland, but again, as long as it's not Sweden, I'll be happy.
When was the last time we played in Belfast, Gav? Because we
Well,
played Northern Ireland friendly 2008 or 9, and then we played them last year. I can't remember any others.
yeah, when we did that sort of tournament with the both sides of the Irish border. I can't remember where all those games were, but it's only been friendlies since like the 80s. So we've only played them
Wow.
5 times since 1984. All of them were friendlies, and we only lost one, and that was the when the world was collapsing
Mm.
just before the Euros. So yeah, I would need to look up when we last played them in Belfast, but it's definitely not often.
Yes, I've got absolutely no memory of that happening at all. Having a look at the Swedish players, they've got Jordan Larsson, who well, he wasn't in the last squad. He withdrew with an injury, but he's involved. He plays for Copenhagen these days. There's Victor Gyökeres, sure. They have Anthony Elanga, who plays for Newcastle. Uh, Lucas Bergvall, who plays centre mid for Tottenham. He's a tidy wee player. And then they've got Alexander Isak, but is he not injured for ages? Isak, did he not break his ankle or something? Well, I suppose he'd maybe be fit by the time the games come around in September. But yeah, they've got a wee guy here that I've just clicked on who is 20 called Rooney Bargh. That's quite similar
Yeah,
to my surname, Rooney Bargh. I've never heard of him. But Barcelona
I
signed him last year from Copenhagen.
There was a whole story about him. This is going to be a terrible anecdote for your podcast because I can't remember the story, but it was something like Fabrizio Romano was tweeting out that he was unhappy at his club, and this wasn't true. So the club put out statements and all of this, and it was back and forward. He was meant to be the next Rooney, I suppose, given his name. Like he was meant to be this wonder kid, and I think he did then get his move to Barcelona and stuff. But I'm not sure if he's reached the heights that was kind of put on him by his agent, perhaps a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
He's
I remember him getting an injury. Sorry, he was touted for all these big moves, and then he got an injury, and he was out for a while. Came back, and yeah, if anyone's I feel like I speak about this almost every episode, but if anyone plays Football Manager, he, he would always be the guy I signed under 10 million for a right winger, and he would last you like 10 years, and he was world class. So if that's anything to go by.
November 2023, Bargh scored the 87th minute winner in a 4-3 win over Manchester United. So that was for Copenhagen. Then in May 2024, he did his ACL, returned in March 2025, and signed for Barcelona that summer. This season for Barca, he's made 11 La Liga appearances, so not too bad for a 20-year-old that they've just taken from Copenhagen. Having a
Literally
look at
understudy to Yamal. You don't get
Yeah.
much game time, yeah.
let's have a look at how all these teams did in their World Cup qualifying group then. So Sweden, as we've said, finished bottom. Switzerland, Kosovo, who are also one of the pot four teams here, Slovenia and Sweden. So Sweden on 2 points. Northern Ireland came close, but not close enough. They finished third on 9 points from their 6 games. They had a big win over Slovakia, I think, plus two over Luxembourg, which took them close. Who have they got in the playoff? Let me see here. Did I mention that a minute ago? Uh, I'll pull up my World Cup tab. I've got far too many open. Here we go. Northern Ireland. Oh, they've got Italy away, of course. And then they play the winner of whoever wins Italy v Northern Ireland plays the winner of Wales v Bosnia and Herzegovina. Kosovo. Don't know too much about them, Gav. Again, it would be unusual, and perhaps Sarajevo would be a nice country to go to. I don't actually really know anything. Not Sarajevo. What's the capital of Kosovo?
Is it Pristina or something like that?
Pristina, let me see.
Or is that one of the other nations we've just talked about?
Capital of Kosovo is Pristina. Well done, Gav. You're coming to my next pub quiz. So yeah, it'd be a new city for many people to visit, I'm sure. They ran England close, I think, relatively recently in
Yeah,
a
rings a bell.
game. Yeah, having a look at their players. So recent results for Kosovo. Wow. Since March last year, they have one defeat, and that was against Switzerland. They beat Sweden in their qualifiers. They drew with Slovenia and drew with Switzerland as well. So, they've clearly got a bit about them. The clubs that their players represent: Augsburg, Fortuna Düsseldorf, Juventus, Rubin Kazan, Besiktas, Sparta Prague, Hoffenheim. I'm getting less sure the more I'm saying here, boys. Sion, Napoli. Oh, at Ramani. He's Kosovan, so McTominay's teammate. Yeah, so and the Sassuolo keeper. So yeah, I mean, Kosovo clearly able a valid League B side based on the roll call there. I would say so. North Macedonia, Sweden, Northern Ireland, or Kosovo. Who's your preference, Callum?
Um, anyone but North Macedonia. No, I don't want Sweden. I'm not against Kosovo. Again, common theme, but rare. Don't think. Well, we've never played them. Um, so, but I mean, the form kind of scares me. They've got Edon Zagrova as well, who's playing for Juventus now, but player I covered when I was working in France. Played for Lille, really good, left-footed right winger. Would feel like he would rinse any fullback on his day. Yeah, Northern Ireland again, similar to the Republic of Ireland argument. That again, I think that would be a great away day, and always enjoy those kind of fixtures. I was looking at North Macedonia and what, as you mentioned, oh, is it just the scar tissue type thing? But they drew home and away to Belgium in the most recent qualification there for the World Cup. Drew home to Wales as well, but they're also beaten 7-1 by Wales as well. So kind of throw me a little bit there, but yeah, not against them, I suppose, but I would probably want to avoid given the scar tissue. But I would back us against Kosovo. If I was to pick a number one, it would probably be Kosovo, similar to maybe Romania or Slovenia in the other group, but not against either of Republic or Northern Ireland.
Gav, I'm having a look at the Macedonian boys here. They seem like a conference league group of players that have probably just punched above their weight for the last wee while. I would say.
Yeah, I would probably fancy our chances against them. Like Scotland are a good team. We should be able to beat most of these teams from any of the pots. So we're maybe a bit fearful when we shouldn't be. But I've just looked up the Northern Ireland stats. So I'm now wanting to play Northern Ireland because the Nations Cup I referenced, where it was like trying to resurrect the home championship. That was actually in Dublin that we played them. So we beat them 3-0.
Yeah.
Kenny Miller scores in 2011, but that was in the Aviva. So the last time we played them in Belfast was in the early 80s, and we've not beat them in Belfast since 1970. So that would be a very rare fixture. So 1983 was the last time we went to Belfast to play them, and it's even longer still since we've won away to them. So for me, that's who I want. So it sounds like I just want all the Ireland, Scotland, and then someone easy from the other pot.
Yeah, I think Northern Ireland probably my first choice here from pot four, followed by Kosovo, followed by North Macedonia, followed by Sweden. The hardest possible quartet for it, or trio for us then, I would say Switzerland, Georgia,
And
Sweden.
Sweden. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Georgia, uh, probably I think our recent past with them influences that trepidation. So Switzerland, Georgia, Sweden, probably the hardest and the easy. Well, more preferable. I will vote for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Republic of Ireland, and then either Northern Ireland or Kosovo.
I fell into that trap when I was writing my article. So Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo is one of the few prohibited clashes due
Oh,
to political tensions and all of that. So if we get Bosnia from that pot, we cannot then get Kosovo from
okay,
the last pot.
right.
Um, so yeah, probably either of them, I suppose, would be the maybe the weakest in either group. But yeah, Ukraine, I mean, Ukraine have got worse over the recent years, which is understandable, I suppose, given what's happening in their country. So, from a competitive point of view, that might be a favourable draw.
Okay, interesting. Well, perhaps then Bosnia, Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland, or Ukraine, Republic of Ireland and Kosovo, maybe, if
Yeah,
that's the way it would work out, something like that. Okay. Well, look, lads, this has been a worthwhile exercise. Thanks very much for coming on, Gav from Scotland's
no
Coefficient.
problem at
All the
all.
best with your website. I hope that comes to pass. And Callum, as always, thanks very much for coming on. We'll be back at the start of next week with our next episode, which is the second instalment of the On the Plane series. We hope you can tune in for that one. Thank you very much.